Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander Core Studio. Welcome to the show. So, today's episode comes to you courtesy of David, who's been supporting this channel as a Golden Pig tier patron. I truly couldn't do this without the support from amazing patrons like David, so again, David, thank you so much. And for the personalized deck tech, David chose Captain Rex Nebula, focusing on using recursion to try to get value from sacrificing stuff to Rex's Crash Landing. So, Captain Rex Nebula is a 2/2 human pilot employee that costs 1 red, white, and says, at the beginning of combat on your turn, target non-land permanent you control becomes a vehicle artifact until end of turn. Its base, power, and toughness are each equal to its mana value. It has crew 2 and Crash Land. Whenever this vehicle deals damage, roll a 6-sided die. If the result is equal to the vehicle's mana value, deals that much damage to any target, then sacrifice this vehicle. Basically, Captain Rex Nebula can pilot, well, anything. Just sometimes Captain Rex Nebula can't pilot it too well, and when that happens, well, you're going to have to sacrifice it now. You are going to be able to dish out that damage, though. So yeah, there's actually benefits from sacrificing things as well, and of course there are benefits from being able to pilot essentially anything. So essentially, again, any non-land permanent you can make into a vehicle artifact until end of turn with that toughness and power equal to mana value. Yeah, you can do some pretty crazy and off-the-wall things with this commander, and keep in mind that on deck techs like this one, all the cards in this deck are going to be less than $1, so it's a very budget-friendly deck. And also keep in mind that as we go through these cards on this episode, I'm going to be taking you through different tactics, show you how this deck works, and how we're going to win with it. And if you are interested in this deck, make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below. Now with all that said, let's jump into it. First up, of course, there's Wayfarer's Bauble. Pay 2 tap, sacrifice it, go get a basic land into play tapped. Moving on, of course, we've got a lot of fantastic mana rocks, which, of course, our, commander can actually pilot. Starting off with Arcane Signet, Felwar Stone, and Boros Signet, each of which can basically give us our colors. And then moving on, we've got Liquid Metal Torque, Prismatic Lens, and Mind Stone, each of which can just tap for a colorless. But still, we've got plenty of ways to fix our mana, and again, we are only in a 2-color deck, so yeah, actually, if we need some additional help, Prismatic Lens can help filter mana, Mind Stone can help us with card advantage, and Liquid Metal Torque, well, can turn something into an artifact, which actually can help us out with removal in certain circumstances. Moving forward, though, we've got Fractured Power Stone, which literally just taps for a colorless, but still a very efficient mana rock. Then we've got Fire Diamond and Marble Diamond, each of which come into play tapped and tap for one of our colors. We also have some mana rocks that tap for even more, though, with Urgolem Science Sisay's Ring, each tapping for 2, and Stone Speaker Crystal doing the exact same thing. But on top of that, we can also pay 2 tap and sacrifice to exile any number of target players' graveyards and draw a card. So some great graveyard hate there with replacing this card as well. And then we've got some other random rocks that can also tap for even more. Firemind Vessel, enters battlefield taps for 2 different colors. Hedron Archive can also tap for 2. We can pay 2 to tap and sacrifice to draw 2 cards. And Dreamstone Hedron, a bigger version of this, basically taps for 3, pay 3 and tap and sacrifice, draw 3 cards. Finally, we've got some creatures that can help us out as well. Sad Robot, that's right, Solemn Simulacrum, enters the battlefield, gets a land. When it dies, we draw a card so it replaces itself. Foundry Inspector helps us with cost reduction for artifacts, and yeah, we're running a ton of those in this deck. And our artifact spells cost 1 to cast. And then Magna Brazen Outlaw can help us with crewing vehicles, and when she does, again, whenever a dwarf you control comes tapped, create treasure token. Yeah, we're gonna have to tap to crew, so we can just keep crewing, get more and more treasures, and if we do get 5 treasures, we can sacrifice them to go get any artifact or dragon into play. So yeah, again, going and getting any artifact can be great if we are able to store up all of those treasures. Now, when it comes to value, though, we, of course, have plenty of ways to get value out of our artifacts. So let's start things off with Trash for Treasure. Sacrifice an artifact, return target artifact and graveyard to the battlefield. So yeah, even something as simple, again, as one of those small mana rocks or, again, a treasure, we can sacrifice with this to get any of our massive artifacts back. Next up, Scrap Welder works in a somewhat similar way, but more restrictive. Tap, sacrifice an artifact, mana value X, return target artifact card, mana value less than X from your graveyard to the battlefield, gains haste all of turn. So, we sacrifice something, bring back something slightly smaller. Vendor Ready Scrap Savant has +2, discard 2 cards, draw that many cards. -2, sacrifice an artifact, go get an artifact and graveyard back to the battlefield, so basically trash for treasure. And that -10 is huge. Emblem with whenever artifacts put your graveyard from the battlefield, return that card to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. So basically, your artifacts are going to be sticking around. We can also get value out of artifacts in our graveyard, though, with Osgear. Pay 1, sacrifice an artifact, target creature gets +0 until end of turn. So another good way to sacrifice an artifact if we want to, but more importantly, pay X, tap, exile an artifact, and then we go get 2 copies of that exiled artifact into play. That can be a massive play. Speaking of which, Mimic Vat. This can keep getting us back some of the things that we were sacrificing. Whenever a non-zone creature dies, can exile that card. If we do, return each other card exile with it to our graveyard. Pay 3, tap, we get a copy of that card, and it gets haste. That, token copy will go away, but still, this can be some great repeatable value, especially for some things that might have some great ETBs, like, Sun Titan. 6/6 Vigilance. Enters the battlefield or attacks. We get a permanent from our graveyard with converted mana cost 3 or less back onto the battlefield. Great recursion throughout the game with this. Or we can just have some immediate recursion. Just a massive play with Gerard Weatherlight Hero. When it dies, we exile it, return to the battlefield all artifact and creature cards in our graveyard that put there from the battlefield this turn. Essentially, hey, they're all gone. Now they're all back. Brilliant Restoration. Return all artifact and enchantment cards from graveyard to the battlefield. So again, another mass recursion spell. Wake the Past. Draw artifact cards from graveyard to the battlefield. They gain haste until end of turn. So, hasty artifacts, yeah, this can lead to a really big and unexpected play. Moving on, we do have some ways to get artifacts back into our hand as well. Pia's Revolution. Whenever a non-token artifact is put in your graveyard from the battlefield, turn that card to your hand unless target opponent has Pia's Revolution, deal 3 damage to them. Again, when our commander is turning things into vehicles and crewing them, they are artifacts as well. So this essentially applies to any of those things. So if we crash land something, we can get it back unless an opponent starts taking damage to the face. And we can also get a lot of things back with Reconstruct History. We can get back, here we go, ready for it? Artifact, enchantment, instant, sorcery, planeswalker from our graveyard to our hand. 5 things for the price of 1. Yeah, that's a fantastic card. And speaking of a fantastic card, well, now it's time to talk about the Golden Pig of our deck, the #1 card out of our 99. And the Golden Pig for this deck is Scrap Trawler. A 3/2 construct for 3. Whenever it or another artifact you control spin a graveyard from the battlefield, return your hand target artifact card in your graveyard with lesser mana value. Again, we are going to be having artifacts coming into play, leaving play, getting sacrificed. Whenever we have those artifacts hit the graveyard, we are going to be getting other artifacts back to our hands. So we can get a lot of recursion out of this, a ton of value out of this. Yeah, Scrap Trawler can do a ton of work for us throughout the game. And that is why it is the Golden Pig. But of course, we have a lot of other great cards in this deck to still talk about. So now let's talk about some wonderful ways to generate some card selection and card advantage, and maybe even some tutoring as well. And we're going to start things off with some great creatures in this deck like Alibu. Other artifact creatures control of haste, so that's nice. And on top of that, whenever one of our artifact creatures you control attack, Alibu is going to deal X damage to any target, and you scry X. Rex the number of tapped artifacts you control, which again, can definitely be a ton. Speaking of a ton, well, a ton of value can come with Oswald. Pay a white, tap, sacrifice an artifact. Basically, just, birthing pod, essentially. Go get another artifact that costs 1 more. Get it right into play. Yeah, this can help us with an absurd amount of value. A great toolbox card for this deck. Or, we've got a creature like Magus the Wheel, which can just be a great, hey, I don't like my hand. Let's just wheel it away. Everyone discards their hand, draw 7 cards. Combustible Gearhulk next. A big creature, 6/6 first strike, enters the battlefield. Target opponent can have us draw 3 cards. If they don't have us draw 3 cards, they're going to be in some pain because we're going to deal damage to them equal to the total mana value of those cards. Ruin Grinder, also basically another big body, 7/4 menace. And on top of that, when it dies, well, each player's going to have to discard their hand and draw 7 cards if they want to. And yeah, we're probably going to want to do that. Ichor Wellspring, another artifact that actually wants to hit our graveyard. When it enters the battlefield, spin our graveyard, we draw a card. And then we've got Faithless Looting. Speaking of drawing 2 cards, draw 2, discard 2. Again, discarding cards is probably not a bad thing. You can actually discard cards, set them into your graveyard, and then utilize ways that we already talked about to actually get them right into play. Get them back to our hand as well. Tormenting Voice, throw a possibility. Cathartic Union, more ways to discard cards and draw. Tormenting Voice, throw a possibility. Discard 1, draw 2. Cathartic Union, discard 2, draw 3. Speaking of which, throwing Discovery, gain 2 life. Then basically Cathartic Union, discard 2 to draw 3. Pirate's Pillage and Big Score are basically the exact same thing. Discard 1 card, draw 2, get 2 treasures. So yeah, again, set yourself up for a bigger turn, essentially, temporarily ramp, Or again, trash for treasure, essentially. Set yourself up to utilize, even just a small treasure token to get back something absolutely massive. We also have some other ways, though, to get some surprising value. So how about low shield, preventing all combat damage to attacking artifact creatures we control? Yeah, it's going to save a lot of artifact creatures. And on top of that, whenever one of our artifact creatures enters the battlefield under our control, we draw a card. Only triggers once a turn, but still a lot of card advantage throughout the game for us. We can also protect our things with Bronze Guardian, which can be a massive heavy hitter itself. Double Strike, Ward 2. Other artifacts you control have Ward 2, and its power is equal to the number of artifacts we control. Yeah, this thing can hit for a ton. So if it would say another great way to protect things, including our commander, Hexproof and Haste, and Blacksmith skill. Speaking of Hexproof, target permanent gains Hexproof and Indestructible until end of turn, and if its artifact creature gets +2/+2, so it can be a good little pump effect if we need it. But yeah, Hexproof Indestructible, that can be a great way to save, well, basically anything we need to save. But when it comes to, instead of saving things, maybe getting rid of things, now let's talk about some ways to throw a wrench to our opponent's plan. Starting off with you find some prisoners, destroy an artifact, or, help, an opponent utilize their own cards. Well, we get to utilize their cards, because we can impulse draw 3 from them. How about Rip Apart, another flexible spell? Either deal 3 damage to a creature or planeswalker, or destroy an artifact or enchantment. And some flexibility with that as well, wear and tear. Yeah, destroy an artifact, or destroy an enchantment, or destroy, well, both, if, you fuse it together. Speaking of which, Crush Contraband. Choose one or both. Exile target artifact, exile target enchantment. Usually we're going to do both of these. Chaos Warp, get rid of basically anything, and it warps into something else. Spine of Ishsa, a massive artifact that we can utilize in a lot of ways. Enters the battlefield, destroy target permanent, and when it's been engraved from the battlefield, return it back to its owner's hand. So if we send it into combat and it gets taken care of, or, if we've got some ways to sacrifice it, well, we can just keep getting it back again and again and again. At the very least, again, attacking with a 7/7 thanks to our commander turning into a vehicle, that can be a big thing for us. Speaking of a big thing, Angel of the Ruins, 5/7 flyer, enters the battlefield, exile up to 2 target artifacts and or enchantments. We can plain cycle away if we need to. And Bosch Iron Golem, a 6/7 trampler, that actually can be even bigger thanks to our commander and some other things too. Or, we can just utilize it to sacrifice some artifacts and chuck them at our opponent's things or, their faces. So, yeah, Bosch can do a lot of work for us. Speaking of which, Cleansing Nova, austere command, some very flexible board wipes. Cleansing Nova, destroy all creatures or artifacts, enchantments. Austere command, choose 2, incredibly flexible, destroy artifacts, enchantments, big creatures, small creatures, whatever you need. Get rid of the things that you do not want. But now that we've talked about throwing a wrench to our opponent's plans, let's talk about some really big plays we can have. So now let's talk about some cards like Tempered Steel, Metalwork Colossus, and Sculpting Steel. Tempered Steel, well, very low to the ground enchantment. Artifact creatures you control get +2/+2. This can be a huge bump effect for artifact creatures, and again, well, anything is an artifact creature when you're Captain Rex Nebula, right? Metalwork Colossus is a 10/10 that we can actually get back and get out for free the vast majority of the time. It's going to cost X less to cast for X the total converted mana cost of non-creature artifacts we control, which we're going to have plenty of those. And we can sacrifice 2 artifacts to get it back. And again, keep in mind there are certain artifacts that actually want to be sacrificed. Speaking of artifacts that we care about, Sculpting Steel, it can become any artifact on the battlefield. So yeah, maybe another Metalwork Colossus or, a creature, that has an ETB like Combustible Gear Hulk. Yeah, this can be a great card. Very flexible, can help us out in a lot of situations. But now that we've talked about every single non-land card in this stack, let's talk about the lands. First up, there's Command Tower, which can tap for either of our colors, Exotic Warrior, which can do so most of the time, and Ash Bears, which we can basically land cycle away for 1. Then we've got Evolving Wildstorm, where we can Expanse, both of which we sacrifice and go get a basic into play tapped, and Mirror Landscape, which when we sacrifice it, we get 2 lands into play tapped. Next up, we've got some lands that can tap for our colors. Temple of Triumph enters battlefield tapped, we scry 1. Battlefield Forge is going to ping us when we do so, and Boros Garrison enters battlefield tapped, is going to bounce land back to our hand and taps for both of our colors. Next up, we do have a MDFC onto Inversion. One side is a land, the other side can destroy all 9 land permanents, a great panic button for us. And then Gyreach Sanitarium, a great way to have us and everyone else loot. So yeah, we can get some artifacts in our graveyard that we might want there. And to round things out, we are going to round this out with plains and mountains, of course, a lot of basic lands. So yeah, now that we've talked about every single card in this deck, including the lands, let's talk about the price. And like I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, every single card in this deck is less than $1, so it's a very budget-friendly deck at $29.41. And keep in mind, there might be some potential extra savings there by buying this deck on TCG Player and utilizing heavy played and damage cards because, of course, those cards need a home too. Though do keep in mind this estimated cost does not include the cost of basics, and it also does not include the cost of shipping, which might vary depending upon where you live. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope that you enjoyed the deck tech, and if you are interested in this deck, make sure you check out that link in the description below. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.